Joining me now is Jonathan Dekel-Chen. His son, Sagi, is believed to be among the hostages still being held in Gaza. So thank you so much for being here, Jonathan.
Thank you. He's not believed to be amongst the hostages. He is amongst the hostages.
Thank you for making that clear. We wrote believe, but you're right. He's your son, and he is with Hamas right now, unfortunately. So I want to talk to you, of course, about this situation. Israel is still reviewing their response, but what's your reaction to hearing that there might be a ceasefire framework that be agreed to by these parties?
Well, and I'm not privy to the goings-on in the cabinet or amongst the military officials in Israel. What I can say is the vast majority of Israelis understand that in order to get the hostages home alive, or at least as many as possible who are still alive, to get them home, as well as the bodies of those who have already been murdered, that has to happen by some sort of negotiated process. There may be some military pressure that accompanies it, but at the end of the day, there has to be some kind of agreement between Israel and Hamas, as distasteful as it is for any government to have to negotiate even indirectly with a savage terrorist organization. But it has to happen. And in this case, there are intermediaries. And I think it's a relatively good sign, although we'll only know when it's done. It is a relatively good sign that the Israeli cabinet decided to send our negotiators back to the table. They had been withheld for the last couple of days, which was very disappointing to hostage families and all of their supporters in Israel. So perhaps there's a little daylight here, and there can be progress in this negotiated process.
I also, of course, it's now been 7 months since your son was taken by Hamas. Could you tell us a bit about your son and how you and your family are dealing as all of this has been happening?
Well, Sagi, he's a 35-year-old father now of 3. His youngest daughter was born about 5 months ago, 2 months into his captivity. In fact, he doesn't know if his wife and 3 daughters survived the massacre on Kibbutz Nir Oz, our home, on October 7th. He was taken from the kibbutz along with 80 other members and residents of our kibbutz. Civilians, all civilians, ripped from their homes, along with 40, we believe now more than 40 of our people who were massacred on that day by Hamas terrorists, our homes looted and then destroyed by civilians who walked over the border from Gaza. October 7th was the explosion that set off this horrific chain reaction that we've all experienced since October 7th, leading to the horrors, and we all see them, the horrors in Rafah and throughout the Gaza Strip. And Hamas could have ended it yesterday or today or tomorrow by releasing the Israeli hostages. And it's infuriating and frustrating. And I do hope that we've gotten through the good offices of the intermediaries to a place where Hamas is willing to say yes, and by saying yes, ends the suffering of their own people and the captivity of Gazans, who are in fact captives of Hamas, not quite like our Israeli captives, but very much captive of the barbarism of Hamas.
As you talk about this infuriating situation, as you put it, there are hostages that would be released as part of this deal. Women, children, the elderly, those with serious medical conditions. That being said, some may not be released, especially when you think about the hostages that don't fit that category. What do you make of that and the fact that that suffering will continue even if this deal goes through?
Well, from what we've heard, it should come in stages. So the first stage, indeed, would be the women and the young children who remain there, and the elderly and sick. But the idea is that that's stage 1, and in stage 2, a few weeks later, another group would come out, and then at some point not too long thereafter, the final group would come out. From what we understand, that's mainly soldiers in active duty that were taken hostage. So, I mean, there has to be a first step at some point. It would be better for all if there were a deal on the table that would end the conflict right now and return all of the hostages very quickly. but there isn't a deal like that on the table. This is the one that's at hand. I can't speak to what Hamas presented to the Israeli government today. It hasn't been put out there in any kind of detail. But I think that's the framework in general. And those of us like myself whose loved ones probably will not come out in the first stage will be thrilled, as we were thrilled in late November, early December, when over 100 hostages came home, not my son and not many others of my friends and extended family from the kibbutz, but we were thrilled for them, and we'll be thrilled for whomever still can come out. The big question, Yamish, and we don't have an answer to this, how many of the 132 hostages are still alive? Yeah. I do not know if my son's alive. I know he's in Gaza, but there's no way of knowing. I believe in him, and I have faith that he's a survivor. He's the grandson of 3 Holocaust survivors. He has surviving and strength in his genes, but the conditions are horrific in the tunnels. This we know.
Certainly a horrific situation, and one that we'll keep following. But also, I want to say thank you so much for your time, for sharing so much of your family, for your son, but also your granddaughter. I appreciate you talking with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.